Hello, Keith Rucker here at VintageMachinery.org. Guys, today we are back to working over on the Seller 6G drill grinder. And getting into short rows on this project, I need to just do a couple little more things to it. And probably the most detailed or, kind of time-consuming thing to finish up on it is I need to do a repair to this casting that I have right here. Now, this is the part that mounts up on the top. There's this rod that kind of fits up in here. There's a tailstock piece that holds your drill bit, and you got the clamp up on the front that holds the front of the drill bit. And this whole piece just kind of pivots on a arc, kind of through some centers in here, and that's what allows you to grind the drill bit at the right radius that we need for sharpening. The problem we've got is that at some point in the past, this piece has been broken and repaired. And they basically, what happened is right here where this hole is, which is where the rod comes up into that holds your drill bit, right there in that area, it broke. It snapped off. Don't know why, don't know how. This is just how I received it. It has been brazed back together. And whoever did the brace job, they did a pretty decent job on it. I mean, I'm not going to complain about it. It looks fine. We might grind it and clean it up a little bit, make it look a little nicer, but structurally it looks to be a very sound repair. But the problem is that crack, the break went right through this hole, and when they brace it back together, it's not a super tight fit on this piece of metal, and it's got a little wiggle in it. Let me show you. So here's the hole, and you can again kind of see where it's been brazed. I painted over it so it's not super obvious, but you can tell where it's been brazed. And again, this is the rod that goes up into this hole, and it fits up in here. There's a set screw in the top that kind of tightens it in place. That's what this hole in the top is for. And there's a key that kind of keys it in place down here in the bottom. And it fits in kind of like this. But here's the problem. Is you see that play in there? That is unacceptable. So the good news is that this front half of this is all original, kind of on the front edge up here. The back side is what's kind of off. I think that what we can do is kind of get a rod in here, and I'm going to probably put some shims in here to kind of press it up against this front edge so that we take the play out of it. And I'm going to have to set this up over probably on my horizontal boring mill where we get this rod indicated in where it's straight. And this is at an oddball angle. This is not a very easy part going to be set up because we're going to have to put some jacks in there and kind of put it in the right position, clamp it all down real good. And what I'm planning on doing here is I'm going to just bore this hole out oversized until we get it cleaned up, whatever it takes. It doesn't matter what the number is. We just need to get it to where we got a nice smooth bore all the way through. And it's not going to take a whole lot. It's just going to take a little bit. And then on the rod here, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this down to get up underneath this keyway, turn down a section however long that is. I'm going to turn it down. And then I'm going to make a bushing to fit up over there that's oversized, and we'll put this in the lathe, and we'll turn that bushing diameter to match whatever diameter this hole ends up being. We'll put a new keyway in there. We'll put a new set screw hole in there, put it all in here, and basically you just have a little bit larger plug down here in the bottom to fit the slightly larger hole that we end up with that we bore out. So that's the game plan. And it's probably sounds easier than it's going to be. And again, work holding and setup is going to be the challenge on this project. So what I've done is I've just made some little wooden wedges here. This is just a little stick, and I just went to my belt sander, just sanded a little wedge on there. I've already got one here, and I got one on the back side. The back side's a lot tighter. Most of the play seems to be up here on this front, and I'm just putting a couple of wedges in over here to just tighten it up a little bit. And that's actually pretty good. Now, the idea here is that the pressure is all going toward this front edge because this is the original edge, original surface in here. This side over here is the side that's actually a little bit large and outside. larger than the diameter that it needs to be. So I'm putting all the pressure, pushing it against the good side that's still in place. And I think we pretty well got it. I'm gonna go ahead and just kind of put my set screw back in place here. And then I think we can go see if we can get this thing set up on the boring mill. I'm over here at the horizontal boring mill where I'm going to do this work at, and I just kind of got to thinking about this thing. Actually, I kind of put it on the back burner and slept on it overnight. I think what I want to do is once I get this thing lined up where this rod is running straight, parallel in two axes, I'm going to need to find the center of this actual rod, and there isn't a center in this now. So I think what I'm going to do is take it back out, take it over to the lathe. I'm just going to put a center in this on the lathe, and that way I can come in here with something and find the center, line my spindle of the boring mill up on the center of the shaft here, and then I can run that through there. So before I get to setting this up, let's go put that center in there. Then we'll have to re-shim it, and then we're going to have to get this thing set up where it's running square, where we can bore it out, and it's in the same alignment that it was originally, which is at an odd angle. So let's do that. All right, I got this set up now with that center hole in there. Like I said, I just took it to the lathe, put a center drill in, and that will find the center of that shaft. So that will allow me to get my spindle set up properly when I do. So now I think we need to get this set up over here where it's running square and parallel to the spindle. So let's get that going. So now the challenge becomes I got to get this thing shimmed up where this is running straight. So right now I'm just kind of getting it roughed in. We're going to have to do this with an indicator eventually, but I've got just the height gauge. This is the height gauge like you use on a surface plate. And I've come over here and I've touched off on my shaft up here at the top end. And now I can kind of come down here to the back end. And what I need to do is just shim back into this piece up until that's roughly touching. And that'll get me close. And then, like I said, I'll just use some shims. I've got a set of shims here in different thicknesses in this set. Zoom out so you can see it a little bit better. So basically, these are just shims in different thicknesses. They're all marked. These happen to be, what are these, 50 thousandths, I think, right here. Actually 125 thousandths, so that's a quarter of an inch right there, 250 thousandths. I'm going to put this up underneath the bottom here, and you can see I'm raising that up over there. I'm not quite where I need to be. Let's put a third one up underneath it, and that's too much. So I'm going to go down. This one is 75 thousandths. So that's a little bit closer. Let me try, this is 100 thousandths. All right, that's a lot closer. So we're not there yet, but we're getting close. I'm gonna have to put some smaller shims up underneath that. And while I'm at it, this is kind of rocking here. So I need to get a shim kind of up underneath this front corner so that when we clamp it down, I'll tell you what, let's see here. We'll probably clamp it right there. Probably put another shim up underneath the front here. All right, that's a lot more stable. I'm gonna get some clamps and go ahead and just kind of snug it down a little bit, and then we'll start the process of getting that back piece true. Like I said, it needs to come up just a little bit more up there on the front. Let's see, this one's a 25. That's real close. I got an indicator on here, and what I want to do is I want to sweep this indicator along this outside edge to get it square with the spindle. I got my indicator mounted on the spindle itself right now. Then I'll sweep the top of it, and we'll get the height done. I want to kind of just get this trued up going in this direction first, So I think I've got it pretty close. So I'm just going to move the table up underneath this. Let's just go ahead and move it on out and see how it does. All right, that's about as far as I can come. And actually, when I got right up here to the edge, it moved a little bit. I'm going to come back on up. We're about, what is that? Actually just 1 thou over that length right there. That's not too bad. And when I snug it down, it's probably going to move it a little bit. So I'm good enough for right now. I'm just kind of roughing it in. So now I'm going to set up my indicator. We'll sweep the top and see if we need to lift it up or down any and make some adjustments there. And we're just going to go back and forth checking this, because as I tighten this up, it's going to probably move it a little bit, and it's just going to have to be bumped around. So anyway, it's a process. Let me sweep the top and we'll check it. All right, I got it on the top of the bar now, and I haven't done anything on this except check it with that height gauge, so I'm sure it's going to need some adjusting. Let's see, I want my saddle to move left, so let's sweep the crosshair. Actually better than I thought it was going to be. About as far as I can sweep, and it looks like we're about 8 thousandths. It's dropping down about 8 thousandths back here in the back. So let me put a couple more shims up underneath here and see if we can do that and sweep it again. Well, guys, I think I've got it dialed in pretty darn good. As good as I can get it anyway. I mean, I've got challenges galore here. This shaft that I'm working on, obviously this is a used shaft. It's got wear in it. It's not perfectly flat, although it's pretty close. Basically, I've swept the top of it and I've swept the back of it, and I've done it multiple times, making little fine adjustments until I got it where it's running within, I'm just going to say 2 thousandths in each direction on the top and the bottom, at least from about here to here, which is over about a 12-inch length. And that's about as good as I can get it. And honestly, that 2 thousandths variation is probably more in the rod than it is anything else. You know, is this set up perfect with the original bore? It's darn close. That's all I can tell you. It's just darn close, and it's going to be close enough for a drill grinder, which is what we're doing. I mean, you know, if the angle's off just a couple of thou over this distance, it's not like it's going to affect the cutting of the drill bit by any measurable amount. So I feel like we are in good shape here. So now what I want to do is I want to come in here and get the center of this rod set up on the center of the spindle, and then we can switch over to a boring head and actually bore that hole out oversides. This is all clamped down good and tight. Shouldn't be going anywhere. So let's get set up and see if we can get this thing lined up. So I've got my little center that I put in there into the shaft, and then I've got a live center that I put into the spindle, which should theoretically be on the center of that spindle. So basically what I've done here is I've just come in here and lined them up where they just match up as close as I can get them. I mean, it's going to be within a thou or so anyway. So I'm, again, good enough for what we're doing here. It'll be just fine. But anyway, that's what we did. I just lined that stuff up. Everything's good to go. I've got all my axes now are on center. So now what we need to do is come in here and take the shaft out of the holder there so we can bore that out and put a boring head in, and we'll bore this thing out. So just zooming back so you can kind of see a little bit bigger picture here. And where we're at now that we got things lined up, this is running square to the spindle in both directions. We've got it on the center of the spindle according to our center mark here and the live center. So we should be ready to bore this thing out. And again, the game plan is that we're just going to enlarge that hole just large enough to where it cleans up all the way around. It should be cutting on the front and not cutting on the back at first until we get it cleaned up. Now we can come in here, we can take this shaft completely out. We're going to switch over, put a boring head into the spindle there, and we'll be ready to roll. So let me get that going, and we'll bore this thing out. So for our boring head, what we're going to do is we're going to put a tool holder in here. This is just I think a 1 1/4 inch shank, 1 1/8. I can't remember what size it's the right size for my tool holder though, my boring head. We're going to put that in. I do want to tighten up the set screw on there just so it doesn't come loose. I need to make a key, a spreading key to go in this to kind of hold these tools in place. I don't have one for this. I've got some blueprints on how to make one. I just need to do it. So I'll just tighten that up. And that should prevent that. We're going to be pushing in on it the entire time, so it shouldn't be a problem. And I've got my boring head. This is just a expanding boring head, a smaller one. And we've got a boring bar in here. It's a little bit longer than I like, but I just don't have many to choose from in this size for this particular head. And we need to tighten these up. Pull my spindle in just a little bit and kind of rotate that around. And I want to get this around. I want to tighten that key up there just so that it's not moving. See if I got enough room to bore that. I'm going to pull that spindle out just a little bit. I'm going to tighten it up just to make sure I got plenty of room there to go through the paces of boring it. There we go. That just locks the spindle from moving in and out. All right. All right, let me get my speeds and feeds set, and we'll be ready to start boring. All right, I think we are ready to start our boring. So I've just got a really, really light pass on this first pass here. So I'm going to start up my machine. You can see that cutter's kind of wobbling, but it's cutting on an arc. And we'll start letting the table feed in towards me, towards the head of the machine, ever so slightly. Just let it bore all the way through. And I got you kind of looking in on the back side here. We're going to make another pass. Make sure I got everything going right here. Making about a 20 thousandths depth of cut. That first pass just barely cleaned it up, and I did get in there with my flashlight and look, and it did only just touch on the original surfaces. It didn't touch over here on this back side where it has got this new piece welded in or prepared. We're just going to continue boring this out, like I said, until we get a good, clean bore all the way through. Whatever it takes to get there, that's just what we're shooting for. So, here we go. Let's do it. We are all the way through. I'm going to stop here. I'm going to speed up my feed rate, and we'll pull that cutter out. All right, now dial in. Let's just do. We'll do 25, I think. That's 10, 25 right there. And we'll take another pass. Just about through that first pass. This will be my second full pass. Dial in another 25. Right there. Here we go again. All right, we're getting closer, but we're not quite there yet. I'm gonna do another 25 thou. So I'm coming in here and measuring this, and we are measuring about 1 inch, 115 thousandths. So originally this was a 1 inch hole. And so we've had to take about just shy under 1/8 of an inch out of it to get it to bored out and cleaned up. So we're about 10 thousandths under 1 1/8. And since I'm so close to that nominal size, I think what I'm going to do is I've got an 1 1/8 reamer. And I think I'm just going to run that up in there. That'll make sure I've got a nice smooth bore all the way through. I'm only going to have to take out about 10 thousandths total to get there. I've got the reamer, and I think I'll just end up with a little bit better finish and a little bit more uniform bore in there. That bore that we did is fine, but it is a little bit on the rough side, and I think it'll just be nicer with the reamer. And since we only got to take 10 thousandths, yeah, we'll do it. So let me get this set up, and we'll do that real quick. Now to hold that big reamer, I've got a Jacobs 20N chuck here, great big chuck, and it's on a Morse taper 5 spindle, so we'll put that up in there, and that should hopefully open up enough to grip that big reamer diameter. Tighten that up on it. All right, and everything should still be lined up to the bore, so we'll just ream that out. I'm just going to feed this in with the quill. I think we got our job finished up here. Got that bored and reamed out to size. Now all we need to do is modify our arm here that's going to go up in there, and I think we'll be set to go. So I'm going to go ahead and tear this down, put my shims back up, and we're ready to move on. Just kind of taking a look here at the finished product. That's all been reamed out to size. I did take my angle grinder with a flap disc and this braze up here, which is kind of globbed on in a couple of places, and I kind of ground that down just where it looks a little bit nicer. When you paint it, it's going to be a lot less noticeable now. So this is the rod that goes in here, and as you can see, it is oversized now, but we're going to fix that. What we're going to do is basically I'm going to turn this down, get that keyway cut completely out of it. I'll make a bushing. We'll push up on that, and then we'll turn the bushing diameter to the oversized, probably TIG welded in place before we turn it, and then I'll put a Woodruff key in there to key it back in place, and this end down here will be a little bit larger, but the rest of the shaft will all be original. So that's up next. Let's see if I can find what we need to do to get that done. We'll start over at the lathe and get that turned down. All right, we're over here at the lathe, and I just want to turn that down and get that key basically cut out of it. Close enough. I'm going to stick with that. Let me put a good chamfer on the end. That'll give me a little weld prep. Prep on this end as well. I'll just increase my area for penetration. All right, now I need to make a bushing to go up on that, and I think we'll be good. Let me just check that diameter real quick. Yeah, we're right at 625 5/8. And I got a piece of stock in here, and it's the right length that we need to make that little plug out of. Basically what I want to do is just drill a 5/8 inch hole through this, and we will weld that on the end and then turn that down to the 1 1/8 diameter once it's on the shaft welded in place. So we're just going to start by getting a hole through that. I just got a drill bit. This is what, yeah, it's 3/8. I was going to say it was 3/8, but I wanted to look at it and confirm. This will just be a starter hole. I'm going to drill that all the way through. All right. I've got a 5/8 inch drill bit in here now. This is a taper shank drill. I'll just go ahead and drill it all the way through. Here we go. I'm going to come in here now with a countersink, and on this end here I'm just going to countersink that. I'm just trying to get that weld prep on the end where we'll weld it and get good penetration all the way around, and that ought to work. All right, let's press that on and weld it in place. We've got that end started on. I'm over here at the arbor press, and I'm just going to press this on the end. It's not taking much. All right. That is on there, and we just need to weld it. I think we're going to just TIG weld this. I've got it set up over here. So let's see if we can do this. Well, I had every intention of getting that recorded. I started recording it, and then my
I realized the battery in my welding helmet had gone dead. I stopped the camera, and evidently I forgot to start it back up when I came back over here. But I TIG welded this. So we TIG welded the top on, all around the top there, and then also around the bottom. And when I was doing it on the bottom, I just kind of set it up here in the vise and just kind of turned it by hand. I didn't want to get the weld positioner out just for that one little quick job. So it could look a little bit nicer because it wasn't, I had to start and stop, but hey, it's welded. That's all that matters. So we're going to take this, let it cool down. We'll take it over the lathe. We'll turn that outside diameter and then cut our keyway, and I think we'll have this done. All right, I got my blank over here. Let me get my calipers. I'll let this cool down overnight so it's nice and cool room temperature. We are basically 1 inch 375 on this right now. So we need to 1 3/8. We need to go down to 1 1/8, inch 1.125. So let's go ahead and get this thing turned down. All right, I'm going to start by facing the end here. Touch off. Take a pass off of that. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put a centering support in this. I'm getting a little bit of vibration out here on the end. It should be stout enough, but evidently it's not. So let me get a center put in the end and a support on there just to play it safe. All right, that should be better there with a center in the end, just give it a little support. And we'll come back in and touch off and just make a light cut. Already tell it's cutting better. All right, we'll get another good measurement on there. We're getting down to the finished diameter here, 150. Got 150. All right, I'm going to 125. We'll just go ahead and take that out and take it right to the measurement. In here and just put a little light chamfer on this end, break that edge, and I think we're ready to go put our key in there and this will be ready to go back together. Just want to do a test fit before we go to cut that, just to make sure this is going to fit. Yeah, that's a nice fit. So now we need to cut that keyway, and I think instead of cutting a solid keyway, I think I'm just going to put a Woodruff key in this. I got plenty of depth on my key back there, I'm pretty sure. So let me see what width that is. Looks like 3/16, 0.1875. So let me go find a Woodruff key that I can put in here, and we'll cut that over on the milling machine. So this is the Woodruff key we're going to put in here. This is a 3/16 inch thick by 3/4 inch diameter. I've got the corresponding Woodruff key cutter here, and I'm just going to eyeball about the center of the piece there roughly. It doesn't really matter exactly where it goes. I'm going to start by just dropping that down until it touches off, and that's going to make the bottom of the cutter flush with the top of the diameter. And then you just do some math. You take the diameter of this and you take the thickness of this, you divide both of those in half, add them together, and that'll tell you how far to go down. So basically I want to drop half the thickness of this and half the thickness of this, and that'll put me right in the center of the shaft. And in this case, 654 is where we need to raise it up. So I'm going to just zero out my digital readout, and we'll raise up 654 thousandths. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 50. Going slow here. 3, right there, 654. All right. So that should put us right on the center. And then the next thing is we need to go in a total, and I'll look this up in my little chart over there for this particular cutter. It needs to go 217 thousandths deep. So we'll just crank up the mill. Whenever it touches off, I'll zero out the digital readout, and we'll just feed in 217 thousandths. All right, we pull in until we get a chip. All right, right there, we're getting a chip, so I'm going to zero out my readout, put a little cutting oil in there. We'll go 217 thousandths deep. I'll just bring the table toward me. A little over 100 thousandths. About 150 thousandths deep. 200 thousandths, and we're going to 17. 217, that's 210, 15, 16, 217 right there. I like just let it kind of go a couple turns, make sure I got it cleaned out good, and we should have our Woodruff key cut. All right, I think that's got the machining done. I'm going to take my Woodruff key here. We'll tap it in place. Good. By the way, that key is lined up with this key. And I think I'm going to have to just lightly file the top of that. I don't think my key is quite deep enough because we took some of that out. The key over here was a deep key, but it's just a little bit too high. And I could take it over there and broach it, rebroach that keyway, but I just don't think it's worth the effort. All right, so the last thing I need to do is I need to put a little dimple in this top for the set screw to engage in, and I just want to kind of mark it. I've got a brand new set screw here, and I'm just going to kind of crank that down, and that should kind of put a mark on the shaft to let me know where I need to drill it at. Yeah, I can see that just fine, and I'm going to drive that back out. See the mark there? I'm going to go drill that out, just put a little dimple in it for that set screw to engage in, and we'll have this knocked out. All right, I got a little dimple in there. Let's see if we can put all this back together again for the final time. All right, it's got my hole lined up from my set screw, and that looks like it's going to line up just right. And that should have it all locked in place. All All right, it feels good to have that repair knocked out. This was probably the worst part of that whole deal on that grinder, was where this had been repaired and not really done right. But now I'm confident that we got a good repair in here, and this should hold up just fine and should do us a good job. So guys, with that, that's going to be a wrap on this episode. I've still got to get this all put together, get the jaws back up here, all that mounted back together, get it mounted back over on the machine. And there's a bunch of little wrap-up things we need to do on the machine itself to be finished with this project. But this is a major milestone, so glad to have this knocked out. We'll hopefully have that drill grinder finished up and running here real soon. Guys, with that, that's going to be a wrap. As always, thanks for watching. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Those thumbs up and comments are greatly appreciated. It really helps out with the algorithms on YouTube. And as always, thank you to those who support the site financially through Patreon and PayPal. It enables me to take the time to shoot these videos, bring them to you, and do all the work that goes on behind the scenes besides just the work out here in the shop. There's a lot of it. And with that, I'm going to sign off, get out of here. We'll catch you guys in the next video again. As always, thanks for watching.